Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. That Mack is I, and I am that Mack. And I'm back after a short stint off of YouTube, but thanks to the help of a couple sneaky ninjas and a little bit of elbow grease, I'm back and I'm ready to kick some truth. Just in time for some new Q. We got a few new Q posts. Numbers guy, how many we got?
3, 4, 5.
That's right, little bro, 3, 4, 5, but I'm going to kick it with the ones and twos and take everybody back to the first post of the day, post 1925, 3 minutes after the hour of 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Q says, define fascism. Forcible suppression of opposition. Okay. Well, fascism is generally any kind of government that is centered around one person, usually a dictator, could be a president or whatever you want to call it, but it's usually one person. And so that usually leads to suppression of opposition since you only have one. Define censorship. The institution, system, or practice of censoring. I see what you're doing here. So it's like you're asking us to define things, but then you give us the definition in the form of a question. So it's almost like Jeopardy. Define narrative. A way of presenting or understanding a situation or series of events that reflects and promotes a particular point of view or set of values. Define projection. The attribution of one's own ideas, feelings, or attitudes to other people, or to objects, especially the externalization of blame, guilt, or responsibility as a defense against anxiety, the forming of a plan, scheming. Define psychological projection, a theory in psychology in which the human ego defends itself against unconscious impulses or qualities, both positive and negative, by denying their existence in themselves while attributing them to others. So basically, Hollywood. Define narcissist. I have a feeling you're going to do it for us. A person who has an excessive interest in or admiration of themselves. Narcissists who think the world revolves around them. Narcissists preening themselves in front of the mirror. I'm not exactly sure if that's a mistake or if we need to be looking for an I, but there's an extra I there. Well, essentially that's Hollywood too, right? And a lot of our deep state knuckleheads, narcissists that can't seem to shut up even when they're in the wrong, and we're watching it just fall apart all around them. We're not even having to do anything. Define dogma, a point of view or tenet put forth as authoritative without adequate grounds. Yeah, essentially that's our mainstream media, isn't it? Just dealing out dogma every single day. Define aggression, forceful and sometimes overly assertive pursuit of one's aims and interests. Yeah, they're getting more and more aggressive every day. Define suppression, the action of suppressing something such as an activity or publication. Well, they're suppressing lots of conservative media and of course social media. We've been dealing with this for quite a while and it's getting to a boiling point. The president's pretty sick of it. You and I are sick of it. I think we're all sick of it. I was just a victim of it the other day. I think we're all pretty sick of it. But then we get to the bonus round. Ding, 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 ding. Narcissists are renowned for using psychological projection to blame other people, even when it is entirely apparent that they're the ones in the wrong. Yeah, let me give you a great example of narcissism here. Now, I'm only going to play you just a little bit of this video because CNN hates me, but you're going to like this.
You have a security
I
clearance
have
and you
zero
keep it.
relationships with the private sector that involve my security clearance. Zero. I get $0 from consulting companies that deal with the U.S. government. Are we clear?
Well, I will be clear in saying that everybody in Washington, D.C. knows if you don't want to be honest about it, that's on you. But if you have a security clearance and you keep it, you get more money to have it.
We're done. Get out.
Phil, it's not your show, so I'm staying right here.
Yeah, you can't kick him off. It's not even your show, dude. All right, well, that was Phil. My name is Mud getting his bum spanked by Paris. Your projection is denied. Denard. Q goes on to say, define realism, the quality or fact of representing a person, thing, or situation accurately or in a way that is true to life. Let me just mention here too, this is Q has put this here before, and I've always just taken it as sort of a break in topics. Now there may be something to the number of dashes or whatever, but I don't have anything for you on that, so I'm going to leave it at that. But in the past when I've seen this, it's kind of like Q has sort of shifted the topic. So we have realism here in brackets, actions of Antifa, aggression, projection, suppression, fascism, censorship, narrative dogma. Sounds like Antifa. Actions of fake news looks to be the same thing. Aggression, projection, suppression, fascism, censorship, narrative dogma. Actions of Twitter, Facebook, Google, YouTube, Reddit, etc. Same thing. aggression, projection, suppression, fascism, censorship, narrative dogma. Yeah, look, all these institutions were really never built on anything proper. So there's no platform to write on. There's no solid argument to lean on. All they've got is hate. Because the fact of the matter is that they were screwing around, selling our country out, and they got caught. And now that we got a president that doesn't play by those rules, their only action is to hate him and to hate those who support him. That's all they've got. And it's falling apart, and we're having to do very little. We're just watching it implode. Q says, sheep no more. The more you know, Q. Post 1926, 5 minutes after the hour of 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Cause in brackets. Define subversion. Well, you're going to do that for us today, aren't you, Q? The act of subverting, the state of being subverted, especially a systematic attempt to overthrow or undermine a government or political system by persons working secretly from within. Effect. And then we have this link right here. And this link takes us to this EO that was signed back in December 21st, 2017. This was our Christmas gift. And if you don't mind, I'm not going to cover it because we've covered it a few times. We're just going to cover the important parts because today Q is getting to the point. And the point is this part right here. Okay. And just so you know, that part that we're highlighting is this part right here. All right. The United States seeks to impose tangible and significant consequences on those who commit serious human rights abuse or engage in corruption, as well as to protect the financial systems of the United States from abuse by these same persons. I therefore determine that serious human rights abuse and corruption around the world constitute an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security, foreign policy, and economy of the United States, and I hereby declare a national emergency to deal with that threat. National emergency. And we made a big deal out of this back when it happened. And it was a big deal. And really, that's when the indictment started to come out, and that is when the arrests started to happen. Now, I keep hearing this at the end of every single one of my videos, and I'm sure other content creators feel the same way. We keep hearing just let me know when the arrests are coming. You should really rephrase your statement by saying the arrests that aren't happening aren't the ones that I would like to see. The fact of the matter is that record numbers of arrests have been happening, and we have posted spreadsheet after spreadsheet. We've seen CEOs stepping down. We have seen there was just recently a whole bunch of arrests in Pennsylvania regarding the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church has taken a massive beating. Those arrests count. Those arrests have grand juries. Those arrests count. They're human rights abuses. And so much of that money, and I'm not just picking on the Catholic Church here, but you know where it goes back to. It goes back to the Vatican, one of the largest banks in the world. Okay, human rights abuses are a big deal. And this basically cut off all that funding. This was the first shot. All right. Now, Q goes on to say, with another link here, which is an amendment, 2018 amendments to the Manual for Courts Martial, United States. All right, so we're talking about courts martial. And this is dated January 1st, 2019, which I guess backwards would be 9111. Section 12. In accordance with Article 33 of the UCMJ, that's the Uniform Code of Military Justice, as amended by Section 5204 of the MJA, the Secretary of Defense, in consultation with the Secretary of Homeland Security, will issue non-binding guidance regarding factors that commanders, convening authorities, staff judge advocates, and judge advocates should take into account when exercising their duties with respect to the disposition of charges and specifications in the interest of justice and discipline under Articles 30 and 34 of the UCMJ. That guidance will take into account, with appropriate consideration of military requirements, the principles contained in official guidance of the Attorney General to attorneys for the federal government with respect to the disposition of federal criminal cases in accordance with the principle of fair and even-handed administration of federal criminal law. Okay, so these aren't civil charges, folks. This is the Uniform Code of Military Justice. This is courts martial. And this is a big, big deal. And once this starts rolling, it's going to be a very big deal. And it's going to be starting probably right around the beginning of the year where this is really going to start taking shape. Now, Q goes on to add plus FBI personnel removal. Q is basically giving us a litany of everything that's happened this year. Plus DOJ personnel removal. Plus CIA no longer has their intelligence. Personnel removal. State personnel removal. White House personnel removal, plus House personnel removal, plus Senate personnel removal, plus chair, CEO, VP, I guess about vice president removal, plus the military budget. Remember, we got a massive budget, plus all that money that was in the omnibus, largest in our history, plus military presence around POTUS. Yeah, look, all the QAnon researchers are getting clowned because we've been saying all along that President Trump's been working with the military. Meanwhile, he's surrounded by generals. So it's not like it's a massive conspiracy theory. All you got to do is just know some basic math. My numbers guy knows basic math.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plus 45,000 sealed indictments. Folks, the arrests keep on coming. Now it takes you to this first link right here. And this is interesting stuff. Military.com. When it comes to Guantanamo, Trump is truly the builder in chief. And this is from the 28th of March. The Trump administration has more than $200 million in new construction teed up for Guantanamo this year and next, combining new funding in the $1.3 trillion spending bill and existing projects. Let me see if I can get that a little bit bigger. Good Lord, that's really big. All right. The biggest ticket item for the U.S. Navy base in Cuba is the so-called omnibus spending law. It's $115 million for a new 848 troop barracks across the street from the McDonald's and commissary to consolidate enlisted prison staff under one roof. Okay, now I'm going to blow my horn for a quick second because back in the day, being February, I made this video right here. In Pursuit of Truth presents an omnibus study. If you want to know more about the omnibus, please look at this. We did this back in February, and I was talking about this money that we got from the omnibus, and I was talking about all the things that they were going to be building and how they were going to be related to basically housing not only the prisoners, but the witnesses and the legal staff and the whole thing, everything that it entails. And there were a whole bunch of people that clowned me on that video saying I didn't know what I was talking about. And here we are. A dive into the documents that underpin the spending bill that President Donald Trump signed Friday, declaring nobody read it. It's only hours old. And that was such a big, it was just such an indicator right there. When President Trump said nobody read it, I thought, no, that's not true. You did. It's only hours old. And so they snuck this in. All this spending for the military, and it mattered. Some people don't even know what's in it, he said. Indicates Congress did not fund a new $69 million prison for the 15 high-value detainees at Guantanamo called Camp 7. It does, however, devote $66 million to a 150-prisoner jail with campus at Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington State for troops and airmen accused of crimes. Let's hop over to the Googly map real quick. This is Lewis McChord Air Force Base. All right. And they got a little prison here. Now, it's said to be for airmen. OK, just wanted to point out that it's right next to this Ketron Island, McNeil Island. And up north here is this Whidbey Island, all these weird little pedo islands. And all right, let's go back. Now, this goes on to talk about this Carlsbad, California construction firm awarded to $23 million to $27 million contract to do work on the infrastructure of a pop-up tent city site that could, in the event of a migrant crisis, hold up to 30,000 people intercepted at sea. It's almost like they were expecting up to 30,000 people coming from sea, not far from Guantanamo's lone functioning airfield. The U.S. military has spent millions of dollars since 2007 building the site on the leeward side of the base for the Department of Homeland Security because the original infrastructure was taken over by the detention center zone for war on terror prisoners. All right. Now, this is interesting, too. Construction will continue throughout the year on the base's new $66 million K-12 school being built by the same Miami firm whose pedestrian bridge collapsed March 15th at Florida International University. Interesting. Past the November completion date. At the time of the collapse that killed 6 people, the school for up to 275 students was 35% finished and scheduled for the completion in March 2019. All right. I almost wonder if some of these guys are going to be building a school and then maybe building their own prison. Interesting. All right. Now, one more thing that I wanted to point out here. It has the Pentagon's top secret eavesdrop-proof war court chamber for former CIA captives, where the public hears proceedings on a 40-second delay. The expansion phase does not provide for a second courtroom sought by the chief judge, just secure office spaces. It is more expensive because this time the Pentagon is hiring outside contractors to pave, put in utilities hookups, build more security fences, and add perimeter lights. Okay, so there you go. That's how some of the spending. This is an interesting article, but it looks like that's where the spending is going in Guantanamo. And if you want to read it or get a study on it, I do suggest that you check out my video from back in February, an omnibus study. Let's move on. This next link takes you to The Guardian. This is an article from back in February 2017. U.S. private prison program, I should say that 10 times fast. Private prison program rebooted by Trump administration. Jeff Sessions gave the order to revive the Justice Department's use of for-profit prisons, a sharply criticized industry that Obama had committed to phasing out. The Trump administration has scrapped Barack Obama's program of ending the Justice Department's use of private prisons, embracing an industry that has come under sharp criticism from civil rights and advocates. Jeff Sessions, Trump's attorney general, on Thursday rescinded a 6-month-old directive for the Federal Bureau of Prisons to wind down contracts with prison companies, claiming that the measure had impaired the Bureau's ability to meet the future needs of the federal correctional system. Therefore, I direct the Bureau to return to its previous approach, Sessions said in his memo to Thomas Kean. All right. So it goes on to say here that they're talking about these 12 facilities. The review prompted the Justice Department to commit to ending the use of these 12 facilities, known as criminal alien requirement prisons, which are mostly used to incarcerate individuals convicted of violating federal immigration law. Last year, the prisons housed about 22,000 people at an annual cost of $600 million. All right, well, I'm not going to go deep into this article, but I wanted to point that out because I do think that's important. And I do think that this raises some questions. I'm not sure how I feel about it. To be honest with you, I'm not a massive fan of private prisons. I think it sets up an eerie precedent. Now, I know that these particular facilities are meant to house federal immigration law violators. And I do think that they should be held to different standards. They don't have our constitutional rights. It is different. But at the same time, I'm not so sure how I feel about it. I would love to know what you guys think down below. Yes or no to private prisons. But it looks to me like, since of this article, Jeff Sessions has given that order. There's probably going to be a lot of use for that. And I'm most certainly sure that we're going to have a lot of individuals that are convicted of violating federal immigration law. And so perhaps that's what they need to house all of this. So let me know what you guys think down below. But that's what this is talking about right here. And then this last article takes you to this Breitbart link. Now, I'm not going to go through this because we've gone through it a million times. However, if you are new to this, if you are new to following Q, you must read this article. It will, of course, be down below. And it's really all these Q links are in my video description at all times. So you can pull this off for yourself. But it's very important that you read this because in the outward narrative, it is widely thought that, of course, Jeff Sessions is just kind of biding his time, not really doing anything. He's just kind of this bumbling idiot that's allowing everything to pass him by. Now, the key figure in this particular article is in regards to this John Huber, Inspector Huber. And he's from Utah. And this essentially talks about how he's not a DC guy, how he can kind of deal with all of these investigations, as well as Inspector Horowitz. And they can deal outside of DC. They can basically seek, let me just read this part right here. Turley said President Trump should be very happy that Sessions chose this route of appointing Huber, who has the power to seek indictments and prosecute cases, and teamed him up with Horowitz, who has 470 investigators at his disposal if the president wants to see swift and decisive action. Of course, remember, Huber is from Utah, and that is where the NSA database center is. Now, I also think this has a lot to do with the spending we were talking about on Guantanamo Bay. Remember, they were talking about, hearing rooms and things like that. And also they were setting up these portable units for lawmakers and things like that. So I think that this has a lot to do with it. But it's very important that you get an understanding here that Huber is not a DC guy. And that's very, very important. Let me just read you this part. As a U.S. attorney, Huber has full authority to impanel a grand jury and to file criminal charges. A grand jury can be impaneled anywhere, which means that it could be a group of citizens from deep red Utah in the heart of Trump country, instead of the DC swamp that decides whether to hand down indictments for felony prosecution. Okay, so do me a favor, read this article. It's very, very important to kind of knowing what everybody's role is, particularly Huber, who does not make a lot of news and would seem outwardly like there's nothing to see here. But that's exactly the way Jeff Sessions would like it. That's exactly the way Huber, Horowitz, Ray, and Q would also like it. Nothing to see here. So essentially, because of the subversion that has happened in our government over the decades, it was a systematic attempt to overthrow or undermine a government. Remember, just Obama and Hillary were going to be a 16-year plan. And that resulted in this massive EO that really started the whole ball rolling by cutting off the funding. We're talking about House of Saud, Mossad. We're talking about Soros. We're talking about Rothschild. We're talking about Media Matters. We're talking about all of these groups that were funding all of this, Muslim Brotherhood. And the only way you can do that is by creating a national emergency. Because when you go up against those kind of people, that's exactly what it is. And many of these bad actors are going to be held under the UCMJ. And in order to do that, this is what needed to happen. We needed to get all of these people out of our government. This is why you didn't see the arrests that you want to see. Because these were the people within all these forms of our government, blocking every step of the way, assisting the bad actors every step of the way. And it involved our government, our law enforcement agencies, as well as corporations. And that's why the military has needed the budget that it needs. Because look at who you're going up against. A well-funded, well-operated program. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is by creating this massive outward narrative, which is essentially what this whole Mueller investigation is. Now, eventually, it's going to be the real story. But right now, the real story is happening with this little gentleman from Utah named Mr. Huber. Nothing to see here. Q. Let's move on. Post 1927. It's showtime. Movie 1. And it looks like this is our cast of characters right here. Bruce Orr, Christopher Steele, back to Bruce. Nellie Orr, Christopher Steele, Nellie Orr, Bruce Orr. And then we've got these empty brackets here. Maybe they're like empty jail cells that they need these knuckleheads to jump into. We see in the next few sentences here, we got Bruce Orr and Nellie. They're in brackets. And when you're in brackets, it's not usually a good thing. Rod Rose also in brackets. Rod Rose hung on for a long time, hasn't he? So you can let me know what you think these are. Maybe these are in result of communications. Maybe they're talking, and maybe Q is talking about these communications that they have. After all, it looks like sort of a flow chart between some of these communications. Now, Q goes on to ask, when did Rod Rose learn of involvement, Bruce Orr, Nellie Orr? Well, he said that it was fall of 2017. Now, if we go down to this link here that Q has given us, which we're going to talk about, you can see right here that this looks like some of this was approved back in June of 2017. And it makes me wonder if Rod Rowe was in the know a long time ago. What happens if Rod Rowe knew prior to signing CP FISA? Wow, it's like I just implied that. Yeah, then I guess the wheels would come off the bus, because it means that the whole idea of this whole investigation has a false premise, which we already know. Why did Rod Rowe, under congressional testimony, refuse to answer the question regarding reading of FISA prior to execution? Well, I suppose because that would imply that he was in the know, and Rod Rowe can't be in the know. So we have some very interesting theater about to happen with Bruce Orr, because I really think that Bruce Orr and Nellie Orr, which remember, Q has alluded to the fact that these are cooperating witnesses. So it's very likely that they are making a deal for their squeal. Now Q goes on to ask us about who signed page 380, 389, 390, 91, and 92. And he's talking about these documents right here. So let's go over there. So who signed page 380? Well, here's page 380. We don't know. It's blacked out. Supervisory Special Agent Federal Bureau of Investigation. Would that be Peter Strzok? Who signed page 389? Let's take a look. Let's cruise forward. Looks like Andrew McCabe. Who signed page 390? We don't know. 391? Looks like our boy, Rod Rosenstein. Look at that date, June of 2017. How about that? That seems to me to be a little bit earlier than fall of 2017. Who signed page 392? We don't know. It was an attorney. That's all we know. But we do know multiple people signed off on this. Multiple people were in the know. Now Q goes on to say 1 of 4 in brackets. Firewalls, who signed it? I have a feeling we're talking about people here. Firewalls, who signed? Well, Rod Rosenstein, McCabe, Sally Yates, Jim Comey. Who signed? Who signed? All these people. So is Q going after 4 characters here who signed off? And they were essentially these firewalls, physical firewalls, that were going to keep all this information from ever coming to light. Well, these 20 FISA pages are going to expose all that and begin our little trilogy. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not talking about a lame trilogy like Delta Force or Mama's House, all right? I'm talking about a sweet-ass trilogy like Lord of the Rings or The Godfather, something sweet. And this is movie 1, the full movie, which is in regards to the 20 fully unredacted FISA pages. And that's the start. FISA equals the start. Well, here's the plot. How the intelligence apparatus, State Department and Department of Justice of the United States, in joint effort with our ex-primary foreign allies, plus other covert assets being CIA, FBI, as directed by Hussein being Barack Obama, the White House, which now has been put in a kill box, in coordination with Hillary Rodham Clinton, colluded and conspired to rig the presidential election of 2016 in an effort to install Hillary Rodham Clinton. Remember the back half of that 16-year plan. Frame POTUS, projection, create emergency contingencies regarding installation of safeguards and firewalls, being people, to prevent exposure or continuation of presidency should counter fail, to ensure operators, actors, agents of power, past and present, remain in control and use sources/covert assets of the fake news media to carry out X-frame barrage of strategic coordinated, guided in brackets, attacks designed to divide, cover, shelter, justify impeachment, removal in effort to regain control and prevent public awareness of illegal, criminal, treasonous acts. Couldn't say it much better myself. So it looks like FISA is being hung over their head while everyone destroys themselves. And FISA, of course, equals the start. And with the start, sets off the beginning of our trilogy into movie 1. Here's our plot, ladies and gentlemen. And this is what the world needs to find out in order for us to get a true start in this trilogy. Q goes on to say, movies 1 through 3 is a full list. So we're going to get a full list of the entire trilogy coming soon to a theater near you. I love previews. Movie 2 coming this fall. Movie 3 to be announced. Enjoy the show. Q. Post 1928 comes in 2 minutes after post 1927, and on the surface it appears to be the same exact post. However, 1927, after the link it says 1 of 4 in brackets, and here in 1928 it says who is 1 of 4 firewalls. So we know that these firewalls are dealing with people, and we heard about this from Bruce Orr in his conversation with Christopher Steele in regards to James Comey's testimony back in 2017, hoping that the firewalls would hold up. So could we assume that James Comey is one of these 4 firewalls? Well, Q goes on to ask a couple times here, who signed? Well, we know Rosenstein signed, we know McCabe signed, we know Sally Yates signed, we know Comey signed. We don't know who else signed. Could it be Rachel Brand? We're not really sure about who else, but we could probably assume that one of the 4 is James Comey. Now, whatever it is, it looks like Q is wanting to point us out to only one of them. So the signatures that we know are Comey, Rosenstein, Sally Yates, and McCabe. Those are the names that we know. Everything else seems to be redacted, and we could only guess. So that would be my guess. One of those four right there. Now, seems like a lot to repost this whole entire post just to change that and put it in this context. Why wouldn't you just add that in the next post? Why wouldn't you just put it in the previous post? Not really sure. But take a look at this. You take these posts, you flip them around, put them together, and you got yourself this. And if it's not clear to you yet, let's take you to this. And now I'll bet you can see it. Looks like a boom to me. Has the makings of a good action movie. Enjoy the show. Post 1929, 16 minutes after the hour of 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. An Anon posts this. Listen close. Session hints to trust the plan. 3-minute, 33-second clip out effing standing. Then it takes you to this Twitter link right here. And this is not the real Jeff Sessions, just to be clear, okay? And I just want to play this for you. Let's give this a listen.
So before I conclude, let me say this. There are those in this room, and maybe more than a few in this room, who get frustrated about when they turn on the TV at night, you know, you have to take Rolaids and got an opinion about what the Attorney General should do or what something else should do. Well, I get frustrated too. A lot of things I'd like to be able to say and explain, but the rule of law isn't always about getting the outcome you seek. It's using the same fair process, pursuing the truth wherever it leads. We can never allow any part of our legal system, and least of all, the Department of Justice, to be reduced to a tool for a political agenda. This department will not make decisions based on politics, ideology, bias, as long as I'm Attorney General. I believe that this is what the American people...
Alrighty then. It looks like it's almost time for the court of Jeff to be in sessions, telling us to trust the plan and that he sure wishes he could talk to. Boy, he had an eager little face on him, didn't he? So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There is your playbill for the upcoming trilogy. Those are your Q posts. I'm going to leave you with one more story here, and I'm taking you over to the Twitter of Mr. Matt Couch at Real Matt Couch on Twitter. And this guy does a lot of great work in regards to Seth Rich and all that investigative reporting there. He's done a bunch of great work, and I'm going to let him tell his own story from this video right here. I'm going to skip you part way in while he kind of lets his Twitter viewers get in there and let him report this for himself.
Stay with us. So we talked to you all about a week ago about some information that was going on in our investigations, and so we gave said parties 1 week to do the right thing and to come forward. I thought I'd help her out a little bit. So this is the main thing here, folks. This is the main thing. We gave them the opportunity, Bill, to do the right thing. Absolutely. We gave said parties the opportunity, the time to do the right thing. Our intel is rock solid. We can back up our statements with everything in our beings. Our sources are rock solid. I'm going to ask for shares as well. If you haven't shared this, before I get going, we want as big of an audience as we can possibly get for this broadcast. It is very crucial to our investigations. We can't do what we do without all of you. We looked at security situations. We had a lot of people messaging us, reaching out to us, people that are very, very well connected in the intel community, telling us that we needed to get this information out a little sooner because of threats and things like that have been made towards our families. As many of you know, about 3 days ago, there was a meme that was put out of Jenny Moore, and they have put my wife on this meme, and we were told by multiple people within the intel community this was no accident.
It couldn't be an accident.
It was not an accident.
There's no way.
The picture was specifically cropped out, and they did so on purpose to threaten not only my family, my wife, but as well as other members of our team. They shut down our Patreon account at patreon.com on Thursday, one of our 3 funding platforms. All of this happened literally when we basically said a week ago We don't know who did it, Deanna. That's the thing. We don't know.
We've traced it back probably as far as we can for now. We're still working on it.
Right. And so we literally are still working on it. We're tracing it. Our team's working on it. Other investigators are helping us work on it as well. But with everything that's happened since we broke this with myself and Bill and Frank Whalen and the Graham Cracker, a week ago on Sunday, we broke a lot of new intel, and they've been attacking our team constantly ever since. They shut down our Patreon account. They literally put a meme out that has went viral, been seen millions and millions of times, of Jenny Moore, the journalist who was killed in Washington, D.C., that she was found dead in a D.C. hotel room on Monday. She was working with Thomas Paine, George Webb, and other investigative journalists. And so this is where we're at. We put out intel because we're tired of the threats. We're tired of everything that's happening. So without further ado, this is breaking information and intel in the Seth Rich investigation. This is going to be a very quick scope. We've been going a little over 4 minutes. I don't really want to go any longer than 10 for security purposes. We received highly credible intelligence from one of our sources about 2 weeks ago. And the intel, as we have checked out from Bill and Frank and members on our team, is as accurate as it gets, we believe. Yeah, we 100% believe. And so this intel that we're going to release is there were not one, but two high-profile members of the Democratic Party that were at the hospital at the exact same time or within minutes of Seth Rich's arrival. And so the big kicker here is that, number one, why were they there? Why were they there? Who notified them? Those are questions that we wanted answered. We gave them an opportunity to do so.
And think about what time of the morning it was.
Right. It was 4:33 in the morning when he arrived via ambulance. And so let's just get out with it, I guess. Right, Bill?
Have at it, man.
The two people that were at the hospital at the same time or within minutes of Seth Rich's arrival were two D.C. politicians. One was Donna Brazile, the current head of the Democratic National Committee, the head of the DNC at the time. Donna Brazile was one of the two politicians that was at the hospital at exactly the same time that Seth Rich arrived. The other one is also very interesting because she's a current elected official, a politician who got into it on Twitter this week with President Trump. The other politician who was at the hospital was none other than Muriel Bowser, the mayor of Washington, D.C. Muriel Bowser, the mayor of Washington, D.C., was also at the hospital with Donna Brazile at the same time that Seth Rich was brought in an ambulance. This is breaking news. We can back this up. We have verifiable evidence. And so we gave these people an opportunity to come forward. So you have to ask yourself a question. Why was Donna Brazile, the mayor of Washington, D.C., a major metropolitan area, and why was Donna Brazile the head of the DNC at the hospital at the exact same time that Seth Rich arrived? And so lawsuits and all of that is filed against our team, we've had enough. There will be more intel drops this week. Basically, we feel like the people in government are not doing their jobs, so we're going to do their jobs for them, and we're going to bring this information to you. And we'll let the American people decide from here on out in our investigations. It's apparent that the Department of Justice, the members of Congress, the members of our United States Senate, they are not going to do their jobs. And so with that being said, any intel that we get from this point forward, we will bring to the American people as soon as we possibly can. We do want to give everyone a chance to come forward. We do want to give everyone a chance to do the right thing. And so, that's something that I think is very, very pivotal in these investigations. And so, for all of you out there, do me a favor, because our information cannot get out unless you guys share the information. YouTube, great to see you guys over there as well. And I see lots of lovely trolls over there on YouTube.
And let me tell you what, I'm completely willing to listen to a valid reason why this may be.
Right.
Why were they there at the hospital at reasonably the same time, at that time in the morning? There might be a valid reason, and that's what I do. I listen to these reasons and people's stories. Let us know why.
Right. I mean, that's the kicker. We're willing to, as Julian Assange said, 30 days after Seth Rich was murdered, Julian Assange basically stated, we're willing to listen to anything within reason. In this murder, we want to hear it. But he also stated 30 days after the murder, there was no findings. There was no findings of it being a botched robbery. And so we're in the same boat. We have no problem listening to these people, but we can 100% prove this. We have a way to prove it. I'll put it to you that way. So
we have no problem listening to anybody. The problem is nobody's talking.
Right. Our source is willing to testify in front of the House Intelligence Committee. We have heard nothing back from them as well. Correct, Bill?
Correct.
So we have sources that are willing to testify and name names. We can tell you who was at the hospital. We can tell you the doctor that operated on Seth Rich. We can tell you the police witness that they've never mentioned. We can tell you all of this information. And we have put most of this information out. You go to our website, www.af-mg.com, and find all the information right there on our website as well for the information.
Well, there you have it. Could indeed be some very, very big news if it turns out to be true. I will say this, Matt Couch has done a lot of great work in the past. And so good luck to you, Mr. Couch, in breaking this story. And if you want to find out more, you can find him over here at Twitter at RealMattCouch. That's at RealMattCouch. All right, kids, that's all I got for you today. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. It really helps me get that message out. We are almost to 30K. So I'll tell you what, big fat cake for 30K. If you'll help me out, that would be fantastic. Thanks to all of you who have been liking and sharing my videos. If you are new to my channel, please know that YouTube will unsubscribe you and unnotify you from time to time. That's just a little game that they play called Censor the Citizen. All right, and you can also find me here on the Twitter. I'm over here often at IPOT 1776. That's at IPOT 1776. I'm also on Gab. I'm also on the BitChute. And I'm also over here at Real.Video in pursuit of truth. I highly suggest you join over here. I'm really starting to like this forum, and I think it has a very high ceiling for some growth. All right. And for those of you, thanks to those of you who joined my personal YouTube channel during my little debacle, I am going to be setting up another alternate channel for this. I just don't want to host everything on my personal channel. I'm kind of a personal guy, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to be setting up a new channel, and I'll be letting you guys know where we can go in case this one goes down again. But if it does go down, you can always find me here at Real.Video, which is where I suggest we all go. And of course, a lot of you guys like BitChute as well too. Both of those you can find me at In Pursuit of Truth. All right, and my Patreon link, my email, and all that good stuff is down below, as well as the other links. So there you have it. That's all the news I got for you today. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And until next time, stay up.